You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Hey there, and welcome to episode 31. Check in with yourself. How are you feeling today? Take just a minute to figure that out. Say something other than fine. I am feeling mildly annoyed by the weather here in North Texas this week. We are having highs in the low 40s with steady drizzle throughout the day. Everything is just gray, overcast, and cold. And I can't help but think, here we go. This early cold snap reminds me that we're getting ready to enter that part of year that is hard for many of us. I know that I personally have experienced seasonal affective disorder in the past, or SAD for the acronym, so appropriate. And I'm absolutely determined not to suffer from it this year. Notice how I really did choose my words there in the beginning. I wanted to slip into my old habit and say that I suffer from SAD, but I caught myself and I changed that wording. It is, after all, an experience. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional, according to Haruki Murakami. I love that phrase. It's so true. We often don't realize that suffering is a choice. Yes, notice how a simple change of one word impacts the emotion that follows. What does it feel like to experience something rather than to suffer from it? Makes all the difference, I promise. Hold awareness with how you speak about yourself and to yourself. Question your thought and the language that you are using. I do this so much more than I used to, and believe me when I say that your words matter. Your words are the only ones that matter. What is my plan to combat SAD this year, this glorious year that is 2020? Well, first I am developing a morning ritual or routine to establish a positive foundation for my day. Because words matter, I like to use ritual over routine. To me, ritual is more like a ceremony, something that you're doing in honor of. In this case, myself. Routine? That seems more aligned with standard operating procedures and not the way I want to think of how I'm spending my time on this earth. That's me. If routine works for you, cool. That's the most beautiful thing about all of this. Yes, words matter. And they matter most to you because it's your interpretation and the way that you feel about doing anything at all that is going to keep you on track or not. My morning ritual consists of getting up at a ridiculous hour, but it's what I need to do if I want the quiet time to myself to wake up the way that I want to wake up. The darkness is extended this time of year. But honestly, it's probably always going to be dark at 5:30 a.m. The only lights that I turn on are either my salt lamp or a string of white lights that I've decided to use year-round. Yes, I incorporated those in, especially for 2020. They really do help me feel calmer, especially on dark, dreary, rainy days like we've been having. I basically wander to a quiet corner of my house and lay right back down with a pillow and blanket while I listen to affirmations that I have recorded in my own voice. It's a meditation sequence, and I can fall back asleep if I want to. I haven't yet, but I'm very relaxed during that time. I do this for 15 minutes. Then I do a short yoga session, another 15 to 20 minutes tops. I just pick a voice guided session that I've downloaded on Audible. Still, with just that very minimal light, the light is warm and the yoga isn't heart pumping, but just slow and easy, a nice wake up sequence. When the weather is nice, I've been pulling my mat outside so that I can literally see the sun rise. And I have to tell you, that is everything. Although I'm not sure when I'll see it again. I was able to get that outdoor session in a couple of times last week. Then I do my daily thought download, just a brain dump of what's in my head so that I can have awareness of what thoughts I might need to work on that day. Now, I have recently changed this up, and instead of writing it out, I use my voice memo app on my phone and just talk. I talk as if I'm speaking to my coach. I've found that I can pull a lot more of my subconscious thoughts out that way because when I'm writing, I'm more intentional about it. And that part only takes 5 minutes or so. Writing took longer. And I was getting to the point where I wasn't getting as much out of it as I did when I first started doing these downloads. I can be on to myself in about 5 minutes of just speaking out loud. It's pretty awesome, and it's been a progression. Because, through all of this, I want to tell you, this is coming from a person who could not stand the sound of her own voice a year ago. I still recommend to clients to start with writing, but I do think that the more you do it, the more your brain tries to get sneaky with you and you can't catch the thoughts as easily over time with writing. That's been my experience after a couple of years of doing this. Now, what do I do with that voice memo? Well, sometimes I pull a thought and I plug it into that model format. What's the feeling that I've generated from that thought? What action do I take from that feeling and what's my result? That would be the part that I write out afterward. That part really should be written. Most of the time, though, I find it's not even necessary. I can visualize it all. I can hear the words coming out of my mouth about how slow my son is moving in the morning and getting ready for school, and my thoughts about yelling at him, something to work on. And it's true that when I noticed that thought about the previous morning, I made a conscious effort to do better this morning. And I actually did flow just a little better. Not perfect, but better. It's just those little subtleties that can make all the difference. Making conscious choices as to where your focus is going first thing in the morning, not to the news, not to social media, but to apps for affirmations, meditation, light exercise, and voice memos. Those are the apps that I'm on at the beginning of the day. Otherwise, the house is silent and dark except for my mood lighting. All of this takes less than an hour, probably 45 minutes or less, and I'm awake, energized, ready. One more thing about lighting, because this helps me with sad also. I have a happy light that I'll use on dark days, those days when the sun doesn't show itself. I've had it for a few years, and I used to keep it on my desk at work since that's where I spent most of my time. In this time of year, I would be commuting home in the dark because it gets dark at 5 p.m. Now I keep it in my home office, and it's just this little compact box light that essentially replaces sunlight when it's not available. This is how I'm preparing myself for the dark days of winter. It's a season that comes every year. We know it's coming. We know how we react to it. This year, I am ready. Bring it on. And these rituals that I'm establishing also serve as self-care. Each moment in itself is a small action, simple. However, when you combine them and you keep repeating them, they compound and keep building into something bigger, something more meaningful. That's how I'm working every day to show up for myself. How about you? Do you have daily rituals or routines? Would you like to? And you're still thinking about them? Are you still using the excuse that you don't have time? You do have time. You can find time for the things that you want to do, always. But that's not what I'm talking about today. Today is really about whether you do want to show up for yourself or if you're simply more comfortable putting it off until you have enough or you are enough. When I have more time, I'll think about how I can incorporate some of the things that you're talking about, you might say. Or I'll work out more, I'll journal, I'll get coached, but I don't have time. That's a cop out. You have the time. You can drag your happy ass out of bed at 5:30 or even earlier if you want to. I am an expert at making myself the absolute lowest priority of my life because, quite honestly, I didn't like myself enough to even consider doing the things that I'm doing now. In fact, I hated myself. Where that even came from, I'm not even certain. I don't think it was one thing. If you feel that way now, it's likely not one thing for you either, but a culmination of a lot of things, some big and some very small things to reinforce your negative thoughts over time. All of these things compound, just like performing daily self-care rituals compound. The problem is, we tend to focus on the negative, and we even take on certain characteristics as a result of our past experiences, the beliefs that we have created about ourselves, our upbringing, our indoctrination, societal expectations, all of the things. They've all compounded in this place you're in now, where you have come to believe that if only you were that instead of this, then life would be better. Here's what I mean by assigning characteristics to ourselves based on our interpretation of circumstances. I'm not good enough or smart enough to start my own business. That might be a thought. This likely comes from a compare and despair approach to what others around you are doing. Your brain is filtering and replaying those negative thoughts that you have honed into a skill over time. You see what someone else is doing and believe that you have to do it exactly the same way in order to be successful. And since you don't know how to do that or how to do it that way, you make it a shortcoming and you give up before you start. You make it about you. You may say, I'm not thin enough or pretty enough to find a partner. Well, we can definitely blame advertising for this one. Women especially have been programmed from a very young age to perceive beauty as what we see on the cover of magazines. And now with social media and all of its filters, that's in your face all day, every day, if you allow it to be. While it is getting better, while there is a body positivity movement in progress, we still have a long way to go as a society. And honestly, this is a global issue. Yes, there is compare and despair here too, but also some solid patriarchal conditioning. The whole what men want or what women want concept. Ridiculous lies. You might think, I'm not disciplined or organized or structured enough to create a new routine. Listen, we are all unique. What works for me may not be your cup of tea, but if there is something that you want to do or something that you want to change and you're not going after it because you've labeled yourself incapable of doing so, then of course you will make this your reality. Here's one more I've heard a few times. I'm not confident enough to try that. I'm not like those people. You've got one thing right. You're not like any other person on this planet. You are a unique, radiant human being who has so much to offer, yet what you're really saying is that you're too afraid to show up. And you're forgetting that fear is just an emotion that will pass through you when you allow yourself to feel it. Fine, be afraid and do it anyway. Find awareness of how you are talking to yourself and about yourself. And what's that all about? This business of I'm not this or I'm not that, I'm not enough, is absolutely crippling to so many of us, and it's completely unnecessary. The truth is, we do it to ourselves. We keep replaying those messages over and over until we've come to believe it. What if we started catching those thoughts and turning them around into something better? What would we be capable of? Damn, anything. Anything you want. Do you need to dig into the roots of all of the things that have happened along the way to make you think these thoughts? Perhaps. I really think that part is up to you. I personally found that after years of spilling my guts in therapy, I wasn't able to fully reach a place of healing because I was constantly focused on what everyone else had, quote unquote, done to me to make me feel like I did about myself. That is my experience. You may find this approach to be very beneficial. I want to be clear that I absolutely adore and support the therapist community. It is needed, and now more than ever. By all means, if you have unresolved issues from your past that need to be unpacked, please explore therapy. The single realization that helped me the most was knowing that I am worthy. And you can certainly get there through therapy. You can get there through a coach. You can get there through a combination of the two. I have clients that also see therapists. The way I see it, we have different lanes that intersect when it comes to helping a person see that she or he is whole and worthy. We simply take different paths to get there. I've said this before. I meet you where you are. While your past interactions have certainly played a role in forming your thoughts and beliefs about yourself, all I really need to know is how you feel about yourself now. The depths of the pain that we carry around are largely self-inflicted in the form of that repetitive voice in our heads telling us that we are not enough. Suffering is optional. And for some reason, we learn to find comfort in the suffering because it's what we know best. Also, it keeps us safe. If I'm afraid to move forward because of something that happened in the past that I've allowed my brain to turn into an actual characteristic of myself, well, then I don't have to risk looking like a fool. I can just say I don't have enough confidence and leave it at that. I can, in fact, go through my entire life that way, and many of us do. The only difference between where I am now and where you may be now is that I decided I don't want to be miserable anymore. I truly didn't want to continue down the path of self-loathing. Nothing good came of that. There was no upside. The reason I get my ass up at 5:30 in the morning is so I can dedicate some time to loving myself. It's important to me to start each day with some semblance of self-care. Remember, energy flows where your focus goes. If the first thing I focus on is Instagram and I see what other coaches are doing that I'm not doing, I start spiraling into comparison mode almost automatically. Or if I check Twitter and see within the first 2 minutes that the world is burning, then I might get down on all of humanity. Then my brain is going to go into despair and helplessness. Combine that with the gloomy weather day, and you have a recipe for hours of Netflix in bed. Don't act like you haven't done it, because I sure have. Yet, suffering is optional. And you are worthy. I was watching a video clip the other night of Shaman Durek speaking about awakening your powers. You know that's my jam. He said, "The fact that you are alive should tell you that the universe in all of its power and all of its energy decided to have you exist. That itself is powerful." Oh, yes, I absolutely love the way that he put that out there in just a few words. And I've been exposing myself more and more to similar concepts over recent years that serve to undo the damage of those compounded negative experiences. In the podcasts that I listen to, the books that I read, the documentaries I watch, it's like food for my soul. Have you ever tried clean eating for a period of time? Do you notice how great your body feels when you do that? Also, do you notice how easy it is to slip back into your old eating habits? Your mind works the same way. Fill it with junk all day long and you're creating a recipe for thought spirals. Making conscious choices to consume healthy, nourishing messages from sources that you can trust will make a world of difference in how you see the world around you and, most importantly, how you see yourself. If you can make the conscious choice to notice your thoughts and to find intentional ways to shower yourself with positivity for, let's say, 21 days straight. You'll start to be drawn to do this more and more because you're going to start feeling better about yourself. That should really be the primary goal for all of us in this life. Never mind the accomplishments, the plans, the dreams of success as you have defined it, the peaks that you want to reach if you could only climb out of this valley. Just set all of that aside for a moment and turn everything inward. Humor me. What do you see? How do you see yourself? How do you speak to yourself? How do you go about the business of loving yourself? That is where the magic happens. It isn't in the attainment of the things or the status. Yes, reaching your goals feels amazing when you get there, but that will be temporary. Finding out who you really are and knowing that you are enough holds value beyond measure. Panache Desai writes in his book, aptly titled, You Are Enough, when you seek to outwardly fill your inner void, you never really feel fulfilled. Either you make someone else the source of the love you crave, codependency, or you blame someone or something else for the things you feel your life is lacking, victimhood. In either scenario, you've taken an internal experience, like the experience of love or peace, and externalized it, effectively assigning others control over your life. You are back where you started, looking for love and completion in all the wrong places. Take back your power, own your singular experience of life, and open yourself to the love within. When you take responsibility for how you show up in the present moment, you step into your sovereignty as an empowered, integrated, divinely connected human being walking this earth. When you can meet yourself without expectation and just relax into who you are here and now, others are freed to do the same thing. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Very eloquently stated, too. That's someone who has it figured out, and it's easier than you think. The reason I chose this topic now is because I wanted to expand a little bit on last week's concept. Yes, you can heal your inner child, and yes, you can create new beliefs by building a belief ladder. All of that said, I recognize that another key component to your successful healing is to know that you are enough. Otherwise, you might not even start because you're holding yourself back with your disempowering thoughts. And you may want to start building your belief ladder there first to reach your enoughness. Hell, that ladder may be the highest one that you need to build, so get to the business of building it and climb up out of that hole, out of that valley. I do believe that it's the single most important thing that you can do for yourself and for everyone else around you. Notice how Panache Desai says, when you can just relax into who you are here and now, others are freed to do the same. What he means by this is that your relationships with other humans will naturally improve. Not only is it the case that when you bring a relaxed and easy energy to the room, others are more likely to mirror that, it also means that others are freed to love you. When you love yourself, it's evident to others, those that are paying attention anyway. That light inside of you just radiates. It's hard to explain, but you may know what I'm talking about. You know those people that just light up a room or bring that energy of ease and calm with them. I promise you it's not because they've had an easier life than you. It's because they've done the work. Know that you always have the choice. I've mentioned your choices a few times now, just like decisions. You make many decisions throughout every day, whether you realize it or not, and deciding not to is itself a decision. You may decide not to do your planned workout today. You may decide not to stick to your meal plan. You may decide not to show up for your coaching or therapy session. Okay, those may be obvious. You are also deciding every single day whether to do the work on yourself that is necessary to bring you out of that place you've been stuck in for so long. If it seems like too much, if it feels overwhelming, if it even seems not a high priority as you're juggling all of your daily stressors, this is where I remind you that the safety procedures on an airplane include putting your own oxygen mask on first. It isn't selfish to do the work on yourself. In doing this work, you're going to automatically improve all areas of your life. It changes the way that you view your relationships, your work environment, and the world around you. When you come to that place of knowing that you are worthy and you are absolutely enough of whatever it is that you have been seeking outside of you, it's like everything falls into place. Oh, this is how I'm supposed to be living this life. It is indeed freeing. Now, I absolutely know that it's not enough for me or any number of amazing thought leaders out there to tell you that you are enough. You have to buy into it too. How did I do it? Well, it's been a process over time for sure. I listened to many hours of podcasts. I've read a lot of books and really immersed myself in my coaching studies. I have participated in a lot of group coaching sessions, and honestly, the power of witnessing another person being coached is immeasurable. When you see yourself in another person, you realize you're not alone in your flawed thinking, in your emotional suffering. There are so many of us out there in the world functioning just fine on the surface, but dealing with a lot of turmoil internally. And it's so unnecessary. It's why I do this work. And yes, I have my own coach. It's like a weekly tune-up for your brain. Coaching others is an immersive experience. I'm totally focused on them, and it takes me out of myself for that time. It's absolutely wonderful. And the reason that I added the mention of group coaching is that when you are neither the coach or the client, you have an opportunity to just witness what's happening and take notes. That's so beneficial. So if you're ever in a position to do that, I highly recommend it. The point is, I've been living in this world for a few years, and I've been doing the work. That's where I've learned how to build my own belief ladders and climb up and out of that place of being stuck. Being part of a thriving coaching community that focuses on service to others really keeps me on track. But that's not the only thing. If I lost all of those connections tomorrow, I would be left with the knowledge that I have the ability to recreate or build new whatever I need to move forward in this life. Because now I know that I am smart enough, capable enough, competent enough, I am enough. As Rumi says, you were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? That's what I'm talking about. Listen, the reason I shared with you at the beginning of this episode what my daily ritual is was not so that you could copy it. Do what works for you. And notice the do part of that statement. We often get caught up in the how of trying new things. How do I go about the business of feeling better about myself? What do I need to do in order to make that happen? Because I know how we think, I know how I think, I felt compelled to give you an example. That's all it is. What works for you? Maybe you are a runner, or you used to be, and you'd like to get back to it. Maybe cardio is your jam first thing in the morning. It absolutely is not mine. Whatever it is, find what keeps you present and allows you to just be with yourself for a period of time each day that is uninterrupted. Things like yoga, meditation, and breathwork may seem like things that only tree-hugging, crunchy hippies would do, and I'm here to say, don't knock it until you've tried it. You may find that you like the company you keep in the empty moments. You may just find that you are enough when you take the time to be with yourself. It may be the most rewarding project you've ever taken on. Not sure where to start? Then we should talk. Simply go to my website, sunnythelifecoach.com. Click Let's Do This. I will send you a link to my calendar. I am always honored to have a conversation with you. Spread those wings of yours. Light up and shine on.